My name is Adrienne White. I'm a 2006 graduate of Lawrence District 55 High School. I grew up in a single-parent home with my mother and my brother, and I attended several schools before they rezoned in the county. I went to Sanders Elementary School for 6th grade. Then I went to Lawrence Junior High School for 7th grade. Then the county rezoned. I ended up going back to Sanders Middle School before I went to the high school for 9th grade. So while I was at Lawrence District 55, I was involved in cheerleading, varsity cheerleading. I was involved in strings, orchestra, and I also competed in the Miss LDHS pageant in the 11th grade in 2004. And I was the first Black Miss LDHS in its existence. When I was in cheerleading, I first tried out in the 8th grade at Sanders. We had tryouts that summer, and most 9th graders make JV first, but I was fortunate enough to make varsity. I made varsity all 4 years. It was very scary cheering on Friday nights as a freshman, but I learned a lot of leadership skills from the upperclassmen. It was very cool to be around them. They made me feel very welcome. And so I became captain in my junior year. So cheerleading taught me a lot, team building. It just taught me a lot about myself, leadership skills wise. With strings, I actually started strings in the district in 4th grade. So I kept going, I never skipped a year. And so when I got to high school, I played first violin all 4 years and was concert mistress all 4 years during all the concerts that we had. Strings taught me discipline. There were a lot of different things you had to learn, different types of music at different speeds, different tempos. So I definitely learned discipline with strings. It taught me to actually sit down, be patient, to learn things that I wasn't gonna learn it quickly. So I learned a lot with strings. Miss LDHS, I went to the pageants my first 2 years, 9th and 10th grade. I knew both winners because I cheered with them. And I said, I think I'm gonna take a stab at it. I think I wanna do it, and I did it. Shout out to Miss Harris. The process was it was easygoing, but for girls who are interested in doing something like that, pageants can be intimidating, especially with social media and how it is now. Back then, this was 20 years ago, there wasn't as much emphasis on looking a certain way or having a specific talent, or it was whatever you brought to the pageant at that time is what was accepted. So when I won in 2004 and I became the first Black Miss LDHS, it definitely opened doors for other women of color, not just African American, but other ethnicities to compete. It opened the door for that. As a matter of fact, I think the two years after that, another woman of color won Miss LDHS. So in Lawrence, Lawrence is very small. Everybody knows everybody. And so being able to open the door for those girls that may have been shy or intimidated about the whole process, it was really rewarding to see. And then I was even invited back as a judge. It was probably 5 or 6 years after that. It was just very rewarding and refreshing to see women of color in the pageant. So I graduated in 2006. After that, I attended the University of South Carolina in Columbia. During freshman orientation, I was kind of indecisive about what I wanted to major in, but I knew I wanted to do something with sports because I cheered and I had dated a football player all throughout high school anyway, and so I was really interested in the behind the scenes part of sports. How does it run? How do games go? How do different facets of the sport field. I first wanted to be a sports agent, so I figured, well, I'll do sports and entertainment management, then I'll go to law school and I'll become an agent, and then I'll be done with that. So the sport and entertainment program at the University of South Carolina requires a practicum and an internship. I did my practicum in my sophomore year in the summer at Colonial Life Arena in the ticketing department, which is how I became involved in ticketing heavily. I'm a numbers person, I'm a sales person, I'm a money person. I'm just a very analytical person. So ticketing sparked my interest my sophomore year during my practicum. Then of course my internship came my senior year in the summer. I graduated August 2010, and of course my internship was at the arena again in ticketing. During that time I got to work several events, do ticketing for that. I just learned all the ins and outs when it came to sales and tickets and how to manage everything, how to build an event, etc., etc. Everything that goes into selling, putting an event on sale through closing it out. So one thing you learn in sport and entertainment management or in the sporting field is that it's all about the connections that you make, which is the purpose of the practicum and the internship opportunities that the program requires for graduation. So after I graduated, I got a job offer after that, becoming the student ticketing coordinator at the University of South Carolina. So I was responsible for the ticketing process and managing everything for students on campus. That's a 20,000 plus student body that's eligible for tickets for football, men's, women's basketball, and baseball, and also making sure they know the proper ways to get tickets for your Olympic sports like volleyball, soccer, track and field, etc. So that was my first job out the gate. So after working in student ticketing for 5 years, I then transitioned to a non-sporting job and worked at WIS TV station for 2.5 years. And then I transitioned back into sports in 2018, and I became the Associate Director of Ticketing, Business Operations for the University of South Carolina Athletics Department, which is currently what I am doing today. In my current role as the Associate Director of Ticketing, Business Operations, I manage $50 million annually. Financials are 70% of my job, and then the other 30% is managing certain sports. I manage football, in particular, player guests, high school coaches, and some recruits. Women's basketball, I'm the ticket manager for women's basketball, and then I'm also the ticket manager for volleyball. The highlight reel of my 6 years of being here has been being the ticket manager of the women's basketball team. During the time I've been here, being their ticket manager, we have won 2 national championships. I was working here part-time when we won the national championship in 2017. However, I have definitely been a part of the last 3 Final Fours that we have been to and have come out with 2 national championships. So that is very rewarding. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of managing. There's not a lot of time off. There's not enough time for sleep, but it's very rewarding, and I get rings at the end of every season. So that's one of the highlights, or that's the best part about women's basketball. Discipline is very important, especially as you're growing up into becoming an adult, because if you don't pay attention, you can be caught off guard. As most of the young people say, life be lifing. And if you're not disciplined, you can get lost, or you can lose perspective on things that are most important. So if you're going to college, if you're going to school, it is important to make good grades. It's very cliche, but it is important to go to school every day. It is important to learn everything you need to learn. As far as leadership is very important. You have to be able to step out and take that risk. Now, you also want to take risks that make sense. If the risk doesn't make sense, don't take it. But a leader, sometimes you have to lead from behind. Sometimes you lead from the front. But leadership is very important, especially when you want to get ahead. If you're nervous about taking the lead on something, you miss 100% of the chances that you don't take. So you must take a chance to lead. As a woman of color, when you enter a field or when you enter a part of a business where there aren't many people that look like you, you have to be able to hold your own. Arm yourself with as much education and as much information as you can. No one can take your education from you. No one can take your experience from you. Experience is one of the biggest teachers in the sport field and in life in general. So you have to make sure you have those experiences and that you go out and seek opportunities. Don't just sit and expect people to come find you. You have to go find them. I remember when I went to freshman orientation and I talked to one of the chairs of the program the sport program that I was in, and he said, you know, there aren't many women that come through here that look like you. And I knew exactly what that meant when he said that, and my mama always told me to pay attention to that. And that's something that kind of stuck with me even now, and that was my freshman year in 2006. So 18 years later, and I still talk to him to this day. We still have contact. I go back to him, I talk to him. He's kind of a mentor for me as well. So breaking barriers, especially coming from a small town like Lawrence, just make sure that you are fully equipped and prepared to lean on your support system and just be yourself. I will leave you with this. Once you know yourself and you are able to advocate for yourself, nothing can pass you by. All opportunities that come across your way, take advantage of those. My name is Adrienne White, once a Raider, always a Raider.